Supervise PhDs, a podcast series by Tara Brabazon and Steve Redhead. Hello, my name is Tara Brabazon.
I'm Steve Redhead.
And welcome to podcast 10. Woo! In our session, How to Supervise PhDs. So this is our number 10 session in this podcast series. And of course, because he is a Northern Englishman and I married a Northern Englishman, we're finishing on a relatively negative note. But it's negative with hope at the end, I hope. Like a Manchester City season.
Or the Smiths.
Or the Smiths. Heaven knows I'm miserable now. So what I thought this podcast would be on is the number one characteristic of a poor supervisor and an examiner. So we're bringing in the examination again in this final podcast. So, Steve, let's just crunch this through, shall we? What are the warning signs of a poor supervisor? Let's go.
I think this is a really difficult question because so often, certainly in my experience, as a sub-dean, as somebody writing regulations in universities on PhDs and so on, it's really difficult to know because the supervisors are very often, and because of the hierarchy, and we're talking about it in the other aspects of the podcast, there's so much deference by the student to the supervisor that you just don't know for a long time whether this is poor supervision or actually whether it's you as a student. You know, you just don't know what you're doing. And
yeah, but that's paranoia.
It is, but the way this thing works is it's quite I think it's pretty difficult to identify aspects. It's only as the thing unravels that you as a student think, oh, this supervisor is really pretty poor. They're not reading my work. I thought that they should have done, but actually way down the line I've realised that they're not. So you're reading it like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that you think, oh look, this relationship's okay, and then only when like the breakup happens do you go, oh actually she probably hated me for the last 2 years. It's in retrospect, a lot of the time, even after the thing's finished. Whereas you see, I'm prepared. I don't think you see it quickly. Yeah, see, I'm prepared to list some. That's why I'm going to list some so that people can see it faster. I see warning signs for me are the supervisor doesn't turn up. So in other words, meetings are held. I had a supervisor that missed 2 years of meetings in a row. In other words, they never turned up. It was a weekly meeting and they never turned up. Okay, so they don't turn up. They turn up late. They haven't done their reading, they haven't done their feedback correctly, they don't fill in the forms. So in other words, the student does their process and protocol and the supervisor doesn't. The two supervisors are having public scrag fights. These are all characteristics. And also what I would say, anything that makes the student feel uncomfortable. So I'm always very conscious, Steve, that anything where the student feels, oh, is this sexual, is this a bit, where's the barrier here? You know, what are I feel like the roles and the responsibilities are blurring a bit. I don't feel culturally safe. Yes. I think those sort of feelings should be taken notice of real early. I think they should. All I'm saying is that, in my experience, these things don't necessarily manifest themselves, even though they may be manifest, to the student for quite a long time. Yeah. And, of course, the earlier you can realise something's going wrong, you can change. You can ask a sub-dean to change the supervisor or whatever. And that does happen too. I agree. Sometimes people do see the warning signs and they act pretty quickly. But they're few and far between. It happens much more down the line. And then it's much more difficult to change supervision. And can I also say, we've seen the consequences on students 6 months, a year in, when supervisors have been negative and destructive and terrible. And, you know, we often spend a year or 18 months trying to help that student emotionally, intellectually recover. So this is the scale of the damage. This is getting in early, and actually, or renegotiating it. So meeting 4, the guy or gal turns up late, hasn't done feedback, feeling a bit weird in their office. I'd state that overtly. I would state that, say, can we have a talk about the nature of our supervisory relationship? But a lot of the time, the systems that you're putting in place early are not in place, and so people are just working on their own for 9 months, and then they realise that perhaps they should have had more supervision. But it's a long way down the line, is that?
I mean, we've had people in car parks at conferences. Do you remember? I mean, you know what I'm thinking. People at car say that calling us out. Hi, Steve. Hi, Tara. Can I just talk to you in the car park?
Yeah.
And they're going, "Is this normal?"
Yes. They don't know. You see, they don't know that it's not normal.
I haven't seen this person in 9 months, and they haven't read my work. Is that normal?
And they thought that was okay.
And
they did think that was okay.
And then either you or I have done a presentation where we talk about what we do, and they go, "Oh, maybe it's not."
But if it is normalised, then why should the student worry about it? And they don't worry about it until later, is my argument.
Yeah.
And of course, then very often it is too late.
Yeah. So I hope what this podcast series is about, guys and gals, is empowering students to really have a think about what's going on and to provoke supervisors. I know we've been quite provocative. We've done it intentionally because I'm trying to provoke supervisors to really realise the privilege that it is.
Yeah, and create good practice, which is really what we're aiming at.
Yes, a two-way. I mean, this is the nature of our marriage too. That it's a privilege to supervise and also recognise that there's a process and a procedure and a responsibility. Yeah. So number 2 is really, I think, where we've been heading in this podcast. How important do you think a Dean of Graduate Studies is and a graduate centre? Because I believe very strongly in a university having a centralised graduate centre with a centralised dean. I understand you're sub-dean in a faculty, and there's a faculty role, and indeed there's a school role in terms of resourcing. But how important is that centralised big-ticket item? Let's think of it. The University of Western Australia Graduate Centre, the University of California Graduate Centre.
Yeah, I'm a believer in it, I must admit, although I'm not working in a system at the moment where that's done. I'm doing it within a faculty, which has links to the university system. I'm also an adjunct professor at York University Graduate Studies programme, for example. So, I'm seeing both sides, and I have seen both sides in my career. Sometimes there is a direct, there is a Dean of Graduate Studies, and sometimes you're working with sub-deans in faculties. And in general, I think if I was given an option, I would say the Graduate Studies centre idea is probably the best. That's my view.
Because you have specialist administrators. You haven't really mentioned much about administrators.
Oh, administrators are crucial. And I've worked with some really good ones, particularly currently I'm working with a very good one. I'm in awe of some of these people and their skills and their practices. Absolutely crucial to this.
They are, and I think we need to recognise that administration and universities often gets a bad rap, I think, but specialist graduate administrators are worth their weight in platinum.
Absolutely crucial, and they're forgotten. Well, in that thing about the bureaucracy that we talked about before, they get written off as bureaucrats, but some of these people that I've worked with, and certainly currently at Charles Sturt University, absolutely fantastic. Because also they have very close day-to-day organic incremental relationships with the students, and they often are the first person to pick up if something is going wrong. Yes, and I've also worked with bad ones, interestingly enough, internationally. And they do damage. And they really do damage. Yeah. So the thing about a graduate centre is you have the best, the elite graduate administrators in that university all together pulling in the same direction, working well. So it's a specialist field. Number 3, let's get into examiners. And this is the $1 million question, really. How do you select an examiner? Which is probably the most important thing that a supervisor does. Yes, and I think you're absolutely right. This is critical. I also say to my students, and students quite often get PhD students coming to talk to me from different institutions, I say that what they should do is write for perhaps 2 or 3 people. Who's your PhD for? It's not for 100,000 people on the internet, unfortunately. It's for 2 or 3 people who will be your examiners. And you almost have to identify them in your head, even before they're selected, as the people who are going to read this thesis. Yes. And I think they're really quite shocked when I say that. But it has been my practice to tell students that, and I think it's worked. Even if it turns out that those particular, Professor X wasn't actually available, or it didn't work out that they were the people that examined it in the end. I think to have perhaps an audience of 3 people who you think you're writing for, almost from the start, is a really critical point, and it's very rarely made.
Yeah, I do that again in my long first meeting. Yeah. I say, let's pick 3 heirs and a spare.
Yeah.
And we pick four names, and they are often aspirational names. But I say if you're going to do the best research, you've got to be assessed by the best. So we pick the 4, but also that helps them, particularly for our interdisciplinary subjects, Steve, because we often pick examiners who can move between the fields as well. So it always reminds the student, I'm working between fields, and to be comfortable with that, because the examiners will be looking for the same thing.
Yes, and also in this globalised higher education system, which is more and more marketised, more and more light touch, you're actually getting the old ethic of examiners volunteering to do work for very little pay, basically, to do it as a duty or an obligation. That's going. That was how it was when I started. And I could rely on, when I was starting PhD supervision, I could rely on examiners working for nothing really, but doing it incredibly conscientiously. That is virtually going. Yeah. And you have to remember that when you're selecting examiners, that very often they'll just say, no, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, too busy, couldn't care less, not enough money.
Yeah, and one of the things you said to me very early in our marriage, actually, in the early 2000s was, and you and I have done it, I think, every time. You've always said, Tara, you and I should both say yes.
Yes, you should say
whenever we are asked to examine, say yes, because the best people frequently don't. And we are, and I don't want to spruik it out, but we are ethical, we behave well, we give the student every opportunity, we read widely in the field, so the best people should examine who are also the most experienced.
Yes, and it's disappointing when you get people turning you down. If you're a supervisor and you've told the student, oh no, so-and-so would be really good, aim to write for this person. Yeah. Very often it happens that they don't want to do it or aren't prepared to, or if they do, they end up taking so long that they get taken off the system. I mean,
it happens all the time.
That again is part of what I'm trying to say, is this pretty brutal, globalised higher education system that we now live in.
Yeah, which is why the supervisor needs to be the advocate, like we were talking about in the past. And also the other thing that no one tells you, Steve, is one way examiners say yes to you is if the supervisor's well known. So if the supervisor's name is well known, if they know our work, then that can often smooth things through, which no one ever tells you.
No.
Last question, and it's a biggie. Let's see what you say. Who would you be wary of as an examiner? I don't want names, I want sociological profile. So are there particular things, attributes, people, topics, whatever, that you would go, I would not pick that type of person as an examiner?
I think I would have had a selection criteria process when I started. I just think now it's almost, you're so pleased as a supervisor to be able to get your first pick.
Yeah.
And it's so rare. I'm not sure that we can be so choosy anymore.
I am choosy, that's why I married you. No, I am choosy. And you might completely disagree with me. We've never had this conversation, have we? There are particular things I will never ever have as an examiner. I will never have someone who's done a PhD by prior publication.
I don't agree with that.
I will never have someone who has a PhD by publication, because they haven't gone through the process of 100,000 words and understanding what that looks like. If they haven't gone through that process, then I don't think they can assess it. Now, you might disagree, but I do disagree. In the past, I've chosen both of those categories and been disappointed both times. Yeah. So I'm very careful about not choosing someone who's just submitted their PhD, because in their head they think their thesis is the greatest thing that's ever been written in the history of the world.
That's a good one.
And they don't have perspective on examining somebody else's.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
So you need a few years to realise you're not a genius. What else would I do? I'd also probably people that perhaps haven't supervised many. I'd be a bit careful. You've got to give people a go, because obviously you get examinations by doing examinations, but I'm always very cautious. And in an Australian system where you've got 3 examiners, I might give a newbie a go 1 out of the 3. Having said that, every time I've done it, that person's given the lowest mark. because they haven't read the field.
I think one of the things, especially working in Australia, is that because it doesn't have an oral exam system, it's useful to have an examiner who has worked as an examiner in both systems, an oral and a non-oral.
Wonderful.
Because I've seen where examiners have said, there's no oral, what the hell's happening? And I certainly, before I migrated to Australia 13 years ago, I didn't know that Australia didn't have an oral exam system. And when I was asked to do that, to do an examination, I thought I was being flown to Australia from Manchester.
You did. Can I just say the joke?
And I was so disappointed.
Can I just say the joke behind this, guys and gals, is before Steve and I had ever met, and certainly before we married or anything like that got together, I supervised one of my first PhDs. Actually, was a gentleman that did work on dance music, and so obviously the expert in the field, Professor Rave-Off himself, was Professor Steve Redhead. So as an Australian, with an Australian PhD student working on dance culture, obviously one of my first draft picks, who else did I have? I think I had Ian Chambers. It was a fabulous... I had 3 superstars.
Yes, he was one of them.
I was so lucky. But you agreed to do it.
And we didn't know each other at all.
No, didn't know each other at all, didn't know the student at all, so it was literally blind. You were an expert in electronic dance music, this was electronic dance music, and I wrote you, was it a letter or an email? Were we even in email?
Probably email.
Just in email. And you said yes, and you examined it.
Get me on the flight.
And I always remember, I think your report at the end, it was a magnificent report, and the report at the end was, right, well, this is passed, so what now happens? It was something like that.
Where's my ticket?
Because the idea that was the process...
I had no idea.
I
really did not know. And that was my ignorance. But as I've examined differently now in the different systems, I think I'm a better examiner, because I think you do read the things differently if you don't have an oral exam at the end of it. You
are absolutely right. So having someone with international expertise... understanding the ebb and flow of the different national systems.
Yeah, and you're going to get that. Globalisation doesn't mean homogenisation.
Spot on. So having that international expertise is crucial. The other thing too is I like someone who is research active. So in other words, pretty well writing on the field right now, not world famous 15 years ago.
Yeah,
so I need someone who's working on it now. So have I convinced you on any of those points?
Yes, I think you've started to convince me.
Yeah, but the one where we maybe disagree, which I'm very staunch on, is, we've supervised PhD by prior publication. Love them, respect them as doctorates, and they are a PhD, but I do not think they have enough expertise in the meta-doctoral process to examine.
Don't agree with that.
That's okay. That's why we got married, and that's why we've done this podcast series. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed it. This, in some ways, we've configured this. It came from despair and worry and concern and wanting to try and make things better if we can. But in some ways, perhaps what we've constructed is a series of 10 podcasts to help train supervisors. You may disagree with us. We disagree with each other very often, as you've just heard. But I really hope that this is the foundation to really think about the privilege of what doctoral supervision is and the responsibility involved. That this is not simply about adding a name to your CV to help you get promotion or a performance development meeting. That's not what this is about. This is about you teaching for the future. Supervision is teaching for the future of the academy. It has nothing to do with you, because the person that you're supervising will supervise other people when you're dead and gone. So you are teaching to the future, and that has responsibilities, but it also deserves respect, I think.
I absolutely agree with that.
Steve, thank you, darling. It's been a long process, but I hope a useful one for you. It's been a useful one for me, and I hope a useful one for listeners. And guys, do feel free to contact us anytime. Both of us are at Charles Sturt University in Australia. Steve's email is sredhead, as in blonde, sredhead at csu.edu.au, and my email is tbrabazon, I'll spell it because it's impossible, BRABAZON at csu.edu.au, and we'd love to hear from both students and supervisors. Take care, guys. Keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this podcast entitled How to Supervise PhDs. Please feel free to contact Steve or Tara at Charles Sturt University. We'd love to hear from you.